Hi, I'm Claire Manning from Thirsty Brush and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing some stamping and heating embossing techniques. So I am going to be using these lovely angel wing stamps from Thirsty Brush. However, you can do these techniques with other stamps that you have in your stash, as I'm afraid these stamp sets now is sold out online and is just available in store. But you're obviously more than welcome to visit us. And I'm going to be using some Gossip ink pens, the watercolour ones, which are these blue pens in a few different colours to create a kind of rainbow effect. So again, if you've got any other watercolour pens, they will work just as well. Tombow, Zig, that kind of thing. And use whatever stamps you've got as well at home. It looks really nice, this technique, with flowers and things like that as well, but pretty much anything you can do with this. So I've got a piece of white card. I'm making an A5 top folding card today, so I've got a piece of white card slightly smaller than that, and I've put it in the corner of my stamping tool. I'm using the Eureka 101 here. You do really need a stamping tool of sorts for this technique, because you need to be able to position the stamps for two different parts of the stamping in exactly the same place. So it would be difficult to do if you were just using acrylic blocks. So I've put the stamps on, and they're lovely clear stamps that are really sticky and great quality. So then what we do is we take the watercolour pens, each colour at a time, using the brush nib, and kind of put them on the side and put some colour down onto the raised areas of the stamp. So that was the kind of reddy pinky colour. Then I'm adding some of this kind of yellowy orange, and you'll see I've made them a kind of like rainbow style colour, a greeny yellow. And they're going to kind of blend into each other using this technique. It's not a new technique, other people have used it before. I've seen plenty of videos. In fact, Tony Derrick, a friend of mine from Stamps by Me, uses this a lot. But I thought I'd try it with embossing this time and do it with some of our stamps, just to give you a little bit of a refresher on it really. So there's a blue, and then I think the last one, yep, here's the purple. So we've got a bit of each colour. Tried not to kind of go over so they blend too much. Tried to put the colour on different parts of the stamp, and then just get a little water bottle and spritz some water on. So leave it for a second or two to kind of bleed out. This is some watercolour cardstock, so you can either leave it like that, or I added an extra few spritzes of water to try and allow the colour to bleed out a little bit more. Did bleed maybe a little bit too much in that middle area, but not to worry. So I'm going to dry that off now. So just drying it off with my heat tool, and it needs to be really dry for the next step. So you can either leave it to dry naturally, but I don't like waiting, so I've tried it with the heat tool. Now you need to put it back in exactly the same place, so that's why I really butted it up against that corner, so I know if I put it back there again, it's going to be in exactly the same place. And now we're going to emboss over the top of those kind of watercoloured rainbow angel wings. So I'm using the Luminosity embossing ink, which is a sticky ink that all your embossing powders can stick to. As I say, Tony's done this effect before lots and lots of times, using just black ink over the top as well, which really gives a cool effect. But I wanted to try it with some of our embossing powders, because they've been so popular and lots of you have got them at home, so I thought we'd give that a go. So I pressed the embossing ink down twice, so you've got plenty of ink, and then poured the gold powder on, and now we're just going to heat set that to make it turn into that lovely shiny gold. So gun nice and hot again, and this time just trace round the embossing powder until it starts to turn to the shiny gold. So you can see the colours start to bleed out from underneath because we've added that little bit of extra water. Now I wasn't totally happy with how that bled a little bit too much in the middle. You could just make that on the card as it is now, but I decided to actually die cut out the wings so I could kind of get rid of that mushy bit in the middle, or you could stamp over it with a sentiment. But being as we've got the coordinating dies in this set, I thought why not use them. So we're still going to get that bleed. It gives a little 1mm border as well around the outside, and of course that colour bleed in all the detail on the inside of the wings. So just hold them down with some low tack tape and pop those through the die cutting machine. So there's two lovely wings. And then I decided to make those onto a background. So I've got some navy blue card here, and I'm going to use the gold embossing powder again, and with this confetti background stamp. So it's a kind of 5x7 full background stamp. So just press that all over. So as I say, this is about a 5x7, so the card I'm using is just slightly smaller than A5, so we've got a bit of a border around, but that's absolutely fine. Just done it twice to make sure that my embossing ink is all over that stamp. And then back in with that gold digger powder that looks really dull when you put it on, but you'll see again in a minute how shiny and gold and luminous it really is. So excess back in the pot and then back out with that heat tool. So some people say to me, do you heat from underneath with embossing powders or on top? I've heard lots of people say before that they found that they get a smoother effect if they heat it from underneath. To be honest, I've never really noticed much of a difference. I've tried both. You saw me there start off underneath and then come back on top. I think as long as your gun is hot, and you're just tracing it and not holding it over a particular area for too long, then I think you can get a pretty smooth result either way. So we just need to let that cool for a second, and then I'll brush off the excess anti-static powder. So let's build the card together, and then we'll do the last step, which is the sentiment. So I'm just using some wet glue to mount that navy blue background with the confetti onto this piece of black card, just to give a very small 1mm border, and then that card is the black then is going to go onto my white card blank, and that again is slightly bigger than the black card, so that's going to again give a nice border, but I'm not using any foam for the backgrounds this time. I'm going to keep the foam to use for the wings, so I'm using some dark foam pads so they don't show when you're seeing the card from an angle, and that's just going to lift those lovely wings out from the background a little, and you're going to get that burst of confetti behind and then the lovely colourful wings at the front. So there we go, and then lastly now go back to the stamp set, and we've got this love sentiment here in this lovely script font, and it comes with two little dies to go around it as well. So I'm going to cut the background one out of black, and then I'm going to not waste that bit of middle bit of coloured card went from where I coloured my wings in, and I'm going to use a bit of that to stamp the sentiment on. I've made sure the die fit first, and then when we cut that out, it's just going to catch a few little bits of that colour just around the wording, which is really nice. So just pop those through my die cutting machine now. There they are, and then we just need to glue those together. So do leave me a comment as well on this video. If you're enjoying my videos, let me know what you think, and I'm open to suggestions if you want to see any certain techniques or stamp sets or stencils or anything like that of mine demonstrated. No problem at all. I do reply to everybody, and I will absolutely add things to my list if it's something that you want to see. And do subscribe, and then every time I upload a video you will get notified through YouTube, and it will ping you and let you know that I've got a new video lined up. So I try and do a mix of techniques: stamping, die cutting, stenciling, watercolouring. And there we go. So just added the sentiment on there, and that's just between the wings, and that's giving it a lovely finish. But I really like how that confetti background is tied in with the gold in the wings, and then you get that lovely rainbow effect bursting out from underneath of the gold wings as well. So I do hope you enjoyed that. Do check out my other videos while you're here, and I will see you next time.